did.
Should be good to go.
I couldn't remember. It was the Coast Guard, right?
Everybody, welcome to the City of Norman City Council Finance Committee meeting on Thursday, November 20th, 2025. It's 4:01, almost 4:02, so thank you for everyone in attendance. Our first item on the agenda is a discussion regarding the preliminary FYE 2025 City of Norman audit. And presenting that is Mr. Francisco.
And I will introduce Joe Hassa and our chief accountant, Clint Moser. And turn it over to them. Their news will be my news as well.
No, thank you. Yeah, we just wanted to give a quick update on the audit progress. And I know Clint, I believe, sent out a draft of the financial statements, all 120 pages. I'm sure everybody's had time to read through that. But at this point, basically, the audit is going really well. We're more than halfway through it. We've got no significant issues to report at this point in time. One of the things I did want to bring up, though, is there's a single audit portion, so the grant portion, what we call basically our single audit, which is where we audit federal grants and all of the expenditures associated with those. The federal government, through the shutdown, is behind on issuing their guidance every year. So what they issue is a compliance supplement that we have to use to audit those programs. And it's supposed to be issued in March of every year. Before the shutdown, they still hadn't issued it. And they basically told all the accounting firms was once they get the government up and running, then they'll decide to look at it. So we don't know when that compliance supplement is going to come out. And we can't finish our single audit until that compliance supplement comes out. So there might be a delay in that portion of it, but we usually try to issue those items together. After COVID, that's pretty much gone up in the air. You just try to focus on the financial statements, get those issued for all the bondholders and third parties, and then we'll come back and finish the single audit. So other thing we have to report with those, or if there's any findings or misuse of those federal funds, we can't conclude on that until that happens. But at this point, I mean, I would be surprised if we had them. The programs that we're going to audit are pretty standard, nothing crazy. So we'll keep you posted. But at this point, everything's going well. No findings or issues like that to report. We're working to wrap it up.
So typically our single audit includes community development block grant funding and more recently ARPA dollars. So
Yep.
not sure if we have any other federal programs hanging out there besides those two.
Here's the highway administration.
Transit's a big one
All the transit stuff.
because we receive, FTA dollars.
Yep. And I think those were the main programs, the ARPA and the FTA, which we've audited in the past. So, yep. Yeah, the ARPA program has been fun to audit with the rules constantly changing, but we'll get through it and we'll keep you guys posted.
Any questions from council? Okay, seeing none. Thank you guys very much for your work.
Appreciate it.
you.
Okay, our second item is an update and discussion regarding Norman Ford project costs with Jason Dr. Funnels. Mr. Peacock, how are you?
When Scott's here, I like to refer to myself as an engineer of fun. So here we go. I was just gonna, as we're going through or Norman Ford, and we're getting towards the end of the programs, and a lot of our projects are finished. We're starting to look to update our master plans and make sure that if we go through another Norman Ford, that our master plans indicate what our users are wanting to see in that park and what that park's going to look like. Because you gotta remember when these master plans were initially done, they were done 2015-ish. So we have we've had a generation or so and that's ran through these parks since these master plans have been done. We also have several organizations that have had a lot of turnover and that hasn't had a whole lot of say in what these master plans look like. So like to give them a little bit of our stakeholders a little bit of a say in what the park is, but we don't expect anything significantly to change. And also too, if we head into another Norman Ford or any other kind of bond elections, we want to make sure that we have accurate cost appraisals or estimations to go along with these projects. This is one of the things we severely lacked during the first Norman Ford. So just give everybody a quick reminder. passed in October of 2015 with 72%, half percent sales tax, Anthony. I need to correct that, so I kind of see Anthony in my dream saying percent, not cent. Which were
And
produced,
yet you put it on the slide.
produced about $150 million in quality of life projects for Norman Ford. Remaining projects, so like we said, the majority of our projects have been completed. And these are the remaining projects that we have left: Saxon Park, Canadian River Park, trail development, and a lot of neighborhood park development. First one we'll kind of go over really quick. This is the master plan as it currently stands with Griffin. Our major stakeholder group is NYSA, which is the Norman Youth Soccer Association. Kind of see everything that's kind of built out. We did get all the soccer fields in there. We did not get an indoor, and we think their priorities might have changed on that. We don't think the interest in the indoor is there from the communication we've gotten lately. And then if you look up at the northeast part of the park, playground, restroom, some updates to the dog park. This is actually what we got built in Norman Ford, so it's kind of interesting to look at the master plan and what was actually completed. So when you start talking about a bunch of these plans, as we move on to a second Norman Ford possibly, I think that the chances of actually seeing more results in upward construction and field construction will happen, because we got a lot of the roads done, portion of it, which took up a huge portion of our budgets, and a lot of the underground infrastructure. So when we move on to a second Norman Ford, you will see a lot more things possibly done. Through this picture is kind of a satellite picture. It's not kind of, it actually is a satellite picture of Griffin Park. When we made our purchase, so in 2019, we updated our lease agreement with the state, and when we did that, we included this yellow box, which is not part of Sutton Wilderness or part of Griffin technically, but that yellow box was originally put under the lease as we thought that was going to be a site for our park maintenance facility. And as we know, park maintenance got built out at North Base. So you look at that yellow box, and we would like to include that into the Griffin Park Master Plan. It makes a lot of sense to figure out what that usable space could be. First thought that pops into my head, maybe the new 12th Avenue Rec Center. If that does end up as a Norman Ford project, maybe that is what could be built out in that yellow space, and then we can repurpose the old rec center and not have to tear it down. Second one kind of we'll hit up on is Ruby Grant. So this is our stakeholder groups out there. Sooner Disc Golf, which has a lot of involvement, as everybody knows. If you're a disc golf player in Norman, man, we got some great courses out there. We've really recently been talking a little bit to OU Cross Country. We have found out that OU Cross Country is holding the SEC meets in 2028, and they desperately need to find a course to be their home course. They would also like to start, they're one of the only SEC teams that don't have a home cross-country course. So we've been in talks with them about seeing what we can do to have a little bit of redevelopment out there at Ruby Grant to include not only an NCAA or OU quality cross-country course, but a SEC, and hopefully they're even talking possibly of making good enough where we can do regionals and maybe even nationals out here. And I think that would be pretty cool. This is kind of what we did on the build out, and I also included the satellite picture of this one. This is kind of the most up-to-date graphic that we could find. We actually did slide over the restroom building a little bit to the west up there, so it didn't get built where this last graphic was. So a little bit of changes, but when you start talking about what could happen at Ruby Grant in the original master plan, you look at this southwest corner, there's a community center, there's some other things that are included in there. We start talking about monuments and other things on the other side of the park. We want to make sure that this is all staying current once again and what our community wants. And also, did we kind of fulfill, when we start looking at a 2019 master plan, did we already fulfill our west side rec center with the WIFAC? So it's a question we probably need need to bring up. And also, if we did, that means that we can repurpose this area down here at the bottom of the park, since we have a rec center possibly on the west side that kind of fulfills that commitment. Reed's master plan, very busy park. We have a lot of stakeholder groups out there, Optimist Club, Medial Fair, Boys and Girls Club. Even had a lot of talks with Norman Public Schools about the baseball fields that are on this northeast side of the park. They want to start a middle school baseball program, and they don't have space to build baseball parks or fields out at their schools, so they want to possibly use this. So a lot of people that have the input on this, and we are, y'all recently approved some of this to kind of through our capital program. So if you look right there in the middle, you have our bathroom building, which is number 21. Then number 8 on the southeast side is a maintenance building. We're going to go ahead and progress and build that through our capital program. And so a little bit more will get solved. Also, when you start talking about Reeves Park, we've kind of talked to our designer about moving the Miracle Field over there by the baseball fields. And we have discovered, since this master plan came out, we have a stage over there by the pond, but the stage could be somewhat unusable, especially in one of our main events that we talk about for Reeves Park, because that's where we pop off the fireworks at, and that's a safety zone. So maybe talk about moving the stage more closer to that center festival area. This is what currently got built out at Reeves Park. You do see a field right there where we're talking about moving the Miracle Field to. That is just a field that didn't get removed during the construction process. Also with the Boys and Girls Club, in some of the talks that we've had with council and the mayor, is it in us losing Whittier and Irving, it's not technically a rec center anymore, would that be a prime spot for the Boys and Girls Club to have a gym built right next to what they're going to be using as the new Boys and Girls Club in Norman, which is the old garden center, teen center right there on the southwest part of the park. This is a park that did not get built. We still included it in there. The budget for this was $2.5 million. When it came to fruition, we cost estimated this. This came in at about, this park build out was about 11 million. So if it's easy, you'll see a little bit of math when I start going to the next item, but I do park math, which even my park math doesn't add up to get anywhere close to building that. But as we've progressed on this one, we divided this up a little bit between Ruby Grant and Reeves, but as time has progressed, there's still a need for this. We still get a lot of feedback about possibly using these fields, and there's other stakeholders that have popped up and have a lot of interest, especially in the flag football fields down there in the bottom. We've talked to lacrosse clubs. We've heard from the OU Rugby Club, which wants to you think of it, it's not necessarily for their college students, but they're talking about starting youth programs. So there is interest for that, and this is over there at the north side water treatment plant is where we have this at. So we know that utilities is not going to build out there. We also know that this corner of the property is pretty much unbuildable, so it's perfect for a park area to go into. We always like to find an usually unbuildable area, and easy for me to say, and build parks and trails and things like that, and what will not work for traditional construction.
Councilmember, is the reason it's not buildable is because it looks like there's drainage or some floodway issues?
There's floodway issues over there, and there's also, and I can't remember exactly where it is, but there's an oil pipeline that goes through that area of the property, which also makes it unbuildable. We also throw in Saxon in there. We don't know if it's necessarily to progress with an update to this. What we've gotten from feedback from the public is that they want this to stay as natural as possible. But we did include a proposal from our architect from that. But here, beginning early next year, we're going to start building out what is on the eastern half of this graphic, which is going to be a playground, a shelter, and a little bit of parking. And The only thing that we can think of that in a future North Forward that might be feasible, that might be good with our residents is that build out of that pond over there on Highway 9 and 36. So I had one more slide in there, which was I don't know where it went. I must have accidentally deleted it, but there was cost that went along with that. And I might have accidentally taken that out, so I apologize for that, or it might have slid down to a different slide. But I can send those out, but there is, I think and I can go off of the top of my head what the costs were. So Griffin Park was $7,500 with PDG. By the way, super sorry, I accidentally deleted that slide. Ruby Grant was about a $20,000 update to that one. Reese Park was another $20,000 for an update with half. This one was a little bit more. It came in about $25,000 for because they're basically we need to restart that one again. It doesn't have a whole lot of input or understanding with that. We probably need to go out there and survey the site and make sure that everything will actually fit and work out there. Ruby Grant, Saxon was a $20,000 update-ish and was one of the ones where I don't necessarily think it's needed because once again, I think that the feedback we're getting is to keep it as natural as possible. And then we had some of that too. We also had YFAC and adult wellness updates to go in there, and that was $37,000 for those two to be updated on those master plans. Apologize for losing half that.
Just email it to us later.
Yep.
Any questions from council?
Can you discuss what the YFAC master plan revisions entail?
So the master plan, so you start talking about there was always, we did not get to build out the full expectations of there. The plan was always a 50-meter pool, which is in a international or Olympic size waterway or swimming pool. Normally with that too, you throw it's a big concrete stand that kind of moves up and down that goes along with that actually makes it two 25-yard pools. But the original intentions with that was to have about a 2,500 seat area for fans to sit in, have a 50-meter pool, and then hopefully be able to get like the larger state meets, OSSAA type things. Right now, Jinx and Edmond are the only pools that qualify for that in the state. Okay. Also on the southern end of that would be at the addition of two more gyms. And when we start talking about truly making YFAC a more traditional rec center, we also need to add in classroom space and meeting space. We don't really have that right now. All we have is pretty much competition sports space. And then at adult wellness, it was parking in addition of a multi-use gym.
Okay, excellent. Appreciate that.
Was there a diving well as part of the swimming stuff?
It wasn't. It could be. I mean, we probably need to get a little bit of feedback on it. But no, it wasn't part of the original one. Diving is kind of right now, even in the collegiate level, it's kind of a dying area of it. It's kind of becoming less and less common that even competition like NCAA schools are not doing it as much. It's what I've been told. You don't want to see me in this one too. So.
Any further questions?
I have a learning question, if you don't mind. So you had the baseline plan, and then it's morphed over the years, and you get to the very end, and so you're making recommendations, and you want to execute those recommendations. So what happens next to your plan? I mean, do you update the plan for the final update? Say this is what we did.
So what we would do, we would go to the stakeholder groups and with staff and start working on updating those master plans. And like I said, these master plans are in place. We don't expect any major changes up there, but we want to get feedback because there are little subtle changes that could help out a operator. So for instance, when you start talking about Reese Park, back when Northern Forward originally began, the city was running baseball. Now it's the Optimus Club. The Optimus Club has never had any feedback on that. So if you start talking to an operator, what's best for their business, we want to give them all the tools to be successful and hopefully go out there and make as much money as possible. That way we don't have to give them money or help them maintain their fields. We want to give them all the tools to be financially independent and offering the service to our public as possible. What is their feedback on it? I mean, just starting talking about this is like they would like areas to take admission. They also like a little bit input on changing these field sizes because it's not necessarily what meets their needs. Like I said, the city had input on this because we were running the baseball program. Now that's changed. You start talking about even Griffin Park. You start looking at this. They started talking to us about how much does electrical costs in your gym portion out at the Y Factor in the summer. We're paying $22,000 to $25,000 a month electrical costs. Well, we can't afford that if we build an indoor. So let's start talking about what are our other alternatives that we can do instead of an indoor. And also, they always talk to me about wanting turf, but there are a lot of downsides to turf. You're more injury prone. There's different links it has different health factors. Turf, if you go out there and take a temperature on it in the middle of the summer when there's sun shooting down on it, it shoots just as hot as asphalt. You also have to water it. You have to make sure it's sanitized between the water and the UV rays. That's how you sanitize a field. So there are still unknown factors, and plus you have to change it every 10 years. It doesn't necessarily have the life. So what is their true input? Because now you've had in about 10 to 15 years, once we get to redo this, you've had their whole outlook has changed. The way they've done business has somewhat changed, and their board looks different. So we get feedback from them. We'll develop this new master plans, and we'll bring them back to council eventually to update the changes of the master plan. But like I said, the main purpose of this is to go in there with accurate cost estimations when we go to a future bond election or a North Ford election.
I'll give it to the city manager. I'm just a little confused.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Olson. Our third item on the agenda is a discussion regarding park impact fees and guest room taxes. I believe that is again Mr. Olson.
Hopefully I didn't delete any of these slides. We gave a presentation. There's two factors there going this. We gave a presentation a month or so ago about kid space and a few other playgrounds, and there was a lot of questions how we actually fund and build new playgrounds or repair playgrounds, and we started to have that discussion, and there's definitely a lack of how big our park system is now and what all is in the park system. There's definitely a lack of capital funding to kind of balance out there and make sure we're properly maintaining everything and actually keeping up with even building playgrounds or parks in some of our developments. So before we hop into some of the things we're going to talk about, possible funding mechanisms, just wanted to give everybody a little bit of a general idea of what our capital funding looks like. So capital funding comes from three funds from us, and we're not talking about Norman Ford, so we're kind of saying Norman Ford for this purpose is not involved in this. So three funds. We got the room tax fund, capital fund, and park development fund. So any given year, room tax does bring in about $600,000. And these are examples of some of the projects we've done recently: YFAC Pickleball, Sooner Theater, interior renovations, Westwood Master Plan, Westwood Tennis, 12th Avenue Tennis and Pickleball. And we did bond a portion of the Young Family Athletic Center. And if I go back in memories, it's about $3 million. And before that, the reason we were able to bond a little bit of the Young Family Athletic Center, we just finished paying off a bond at Westwood Golf. So you start talking about what fits in underneath a typical capital program, CIP program for parks. We have several existing maintenance projects that are ongoing in the capital fund, and examples of that, we always have funding in for sports lighting, because sports lighting, We have lighting that fails every single year. We have to go out there or replace lights. You wouldn't believe how much it costs to replace a light. And one of the, getting people 50 feet in the air to change lights. It's very expensive. Playground components, we do have an aging playground system, so trying to keep components in there where it's safe, and if somebody vandalize it, or we have to replace park signage, recreation center interiors, capital projects, center theater sign. These are all kind of recent things that we've done underneath the capital program. We also have annual projects that are ongoing for forestry, which is about $65,000, and then another tree fund in Fund 50, which is about $40,000, and then occasionally we do get what full projects funded through capital, and I refer to that as unique funding because it doesn't necessarily happen every year. So Bishop Creek Eco Park, that's when that 1 year during COVID, all of a sudden sales tax took off, and we had a little bit of extra left over in the fund. So that's one of the things you funded. Reese Park restrooms and maintenance building was funded recently. Then we have parkland development, which is some of the stuff that we'll talk about today. Any given year, we have about $95,000 that comes into that. So a lot of that is fee in lieu of. So when a developer comes in, we have a neighborhood park that's pretty close to whatever that development is going to. They can pay a fee in lieu of, where we'll go through there and actually count the houses and do an estimation of how much the park fees would be. Right now, reserve balance, estimated balance is about $1.4 million into that, but there are caveats into that. So some of that has to be split 50-50 by ordinance. It goes to neighborhood parks, and when you start talking about how the ordinance is written, that's even broken down even more, which puts us more limitations how we can spend that, because some of that amount of money is assigned to individual parks. So we can't necessarily go on and spend any of the money anywhere we want to. It's just broken down so far by ordinance that there are limitations.
Councilmember Grant.
Would one of those limitations be like a neighborhood park and an HOA?
Repeat that one more time.
Would a limitation be a neighborhood park and an HOA where it's assumed if it's an HOA neighborhood, they're taking care of their own park?
So that is not included in it. So if there's a private park option inside the ordinance that basically would relieve the developer and the builders of paying any fees that has to do with a neighborhood park. So in that instance, we don't collect neighborhood park fees for that. We only collect the community park fee, which would mean they would pay $75 instead of $150 per house. So like I was saying, that's kind of split, and then we actually have some of that money is not accessible, so it's very hard for us to spend. And the parks that are attached to that funding, we don't have enough money in those individual parks to buy anything. So it's kind of a weird catch-22 problem. So when you start talking about the expenses of, this was set up in 1994, which we'll go through a little bit here in a minute, but things that we could buy in 1994 are no longer anywhere close to be affordable in 2025. And then we are actually pretty close to, where's James? When you start talking about the 50-50 split, the community park portion is pretty much, it's depleted. We don't have a whole lot of in that portion of it. So all this 1.4, and that's a given, that's an estimated balance that we would have at the end of the year, according to Anthony's calculations that we would have available if we collected all the fees. So going a little bit farther into why we would need this, so we start talking about the assets inside the park department. So we have 1,160 acres of parkland, 55 parks. There's 68 parks in the park system. 55 have playgrounds. And when we start talking about community parks without playgrounds, Griffin Parks and Saxon Park does not have playgrounds. Saxon will be taken care of with Norman Ford. Community parks that need replacement are Lions Park and Little Axe. Cultural centers inside of the park system, and we have the Center Theater, Historical House, Depot Firehouse, Art Center. Recreation facilities are Little Axe, the Adult Wellness, 12th Avenue, Little Axe, and all Westwood facilities. And then what I'm putting underneath others are kind of what specialty parks we have, which are Greenbelts, Trails, Bishop Creek, and Sutton Wilderness. So if we put a number value to this, and this is somewhat of a conservative number value. So if we start going at about $18,000 an acre, which is floodplain, give or takes what you would buy in a floodplain for per acre in Norman, and then start adding the cost in for what we've recently played for the YFAC adult wellness and what we think the other properties are probably worth. We're somewhere in park assets between 75 million and 100 million worth of properties. And if you refer back to the other page, some of our capital money is already tied up in bonds and other programs. And so we're getting somewhere for that $75 million, somewhere in the neighborhood of about $500,000 worth of capital funding per year. Real quick overhead view, a 30,000 viewpoint of how park land dedication works is anytime we have a residential development in the city, they have to go through park board, and there's 3 decisions they can take to either do a public park, private park, or fee in lieu of. And there's a calculation on how much they have to give us in acreage, and if they do a private park option, they have to do double the amount of land. And then we try to do our best to go through there and count rooftops if it's a fee in lieu. And I kind of hit that real quick so we don't have to stay on those too much. Parkland development, this is the one that focused on a little bit today. Done in 1994, $150 per dwelling unit, $75 for a neighborhood park improvement in the area, and $75 for a community park. So if you talk, and $75 for neighborhood park improvements, that also, there are caveats to that. So if you're doing a private park option or fee in lieu of it, that necessarily does not get charged when a builder comes and pulls their permit.
Councilmember Grant.
Were we talking about potentially raising this fee?
Yes, I'll hit that in one second.
Okay.
All these fees are assessed by the builder when they come and pull a permit. And we typically try to budget everything in a 5-year cycle and try to project best we can on those. And neighborhood parks, of course, are attached to wherever that money is attached. We have a long spreadsheet that tells us what is in every neighborhood park account. During the AIM Parks, Recreation, and Culture Master Plan, these are the recommendations that came along with review, which we're doing right now, and increase the park development fee ordinance, last updated in 1994. The recommendation is going from a flat fee to a per square foot model, which is done in other communities around Oklahoma at a pretty successful rate. Create and develop 4 quadrants of the city. So instead of just attaching neighborhood parks to a certain cash dollar, maybe we split it into 4 parts of the city, and then whatever is raised in that money or that section could stay in that part of town. Also review the parkland dedication, which was last updated in 1976, and see if make sure that is all in line if we update the other portions of the ordinance, and possibly explore commercial development impact fees to support beautification, trail maintenance. So we're not talking about that today. That was just a recommendation of the AIM master plan. So we start talking about, and this does not include fee in lieu of, so this is just park fees collected per issuance of a building permit. So in 2024, we took in $50,400. In 2025, we took $44,325 with a $51,000 estimate by the end of the year. Threw in this little caveat here right in the corner. In 1994, when this park development fee ordinance was put in place, average cost of the playground was $35,000. Today it is above $200,000. So we kind of went in there and did some hypothetical fees. We worked with planning and got residential square feet built in 2024 and year to date in an estimation. So we took those fees and then started adding square footage to all those. And so if you take the square footage times, if we do a nickel, a dime, all the way up to 50 cents, the middle line is what you would get. And then on the bottom, Anthony likes to use a 2,000 square foot house as an example. So that would be what would be produce out of it. And then the only reason I highlighted 35 cents a square foot, that is what was kind of honed in on as a recommendation from the AIM committee when we were talking. We never did put that officially into the recommendation, but that's what the totals would look like if we did go to a square feet per model. So if you start looking at, and there can be caveats for discounts. So if you're doing a neighborhood park or a fee in lieu of or something like that, we can try to work with the developer to figure out a fee. We have to figure out what that calculation would be, or if they did their own private park option, then we would have to figure out what that calculation would be. But that would be kind of in the neighborhood of what it would cost. So a 2,000 square foot house would be, instead of being $150, would be $700.
So we would be able to put a cap on, or maybe a floor on square footage too, as to not discourage potential lower income housing, or
We could put a minimum cost on it, or I would think it was, anything below 1,000 or something like 1,000 square feet, it could be X number. Yeah, I think that as long as it's clear and simple for us to collect, I think, or if we're planning to collect on the issuance of the permit, I think that you could figure that out.
I think by floor you meant there'd be some square footage you wouldn't charge a fee at all, right?
or yeah, just not to discourage that type of building. So,
Correct.
and not that I want to discourage any type of building for that matter. Just kind of focused on that question right now. That's all I think.
Another option is room tax. So we kind of hopped a little bit into room tax as much as we could, and I want everybody to understand when you start doing calculations, this is park math. This is not no official math by somebody who actually knows what they're doing from finance. But we start talking about the original room tax, which is, or normal room tax is currently 8%. So the original 5%, which was what it was up until a few years ago, and that divide was Visit Norman would get 50% of that, Arts would get 25%, Parks would get the other 25%. A few years ago, we added in an extra 3%, which the Norman Sports Commission of that 3% gets 75%, and Norman Arts Council gets 25% of that. And I also threw in a little bit of a table. It's kind of tiny for everybody to see. I've told that Shawnee has removed the RV portion of their ordinance, but this is the most updated list I could get from Visit Norman. And we have Oklahoma City and Midwest City, which has the highest rates. Oklahoma City recently went back and got more hotel motel tax added last year, and then Midwest City, I think theirs is, I think it was done recently.
Yeah, they just passed theirs last week, I think.
And they're both at 9.25. So when you start doing some of the calculations, projected room tax, well, first of all, let's start off room tax by percentages. This goes in even more detail if you actually break down by the percentages of what it is right now. So 25% goes to Norman Arts Council, as we're talking about all 8% added into. 15.625 goes to the Parks Department, and 59.37 goes to Visit Norman, which 15% of that is dedicated to sports tourism. And our lovely finance staff takes 4% off that for administrative fees. And
General fund.
general fund. Thank you. That's the reason we have Anthony here. I have no clue how many times I've made you nervous while I've been talking. So total room tax estimates for 26 is about 3.9%. When you start talking about increasing 1%, Anthony broke these down for me, so it's $493 for every percent we go up that we would create. And then we have minus admin fees as below that, and then it breaks down to 0.5 or 0.25. So parks, which is incorrect, so don't look at that. I didn't change that because that was my estimate earlier. I was off by 0.2%, but is actually what we generally collect is about $592,000 off the estimate. And then if we started, and this is what I'm talking about, if you raised a parks portion and they collected 100% of whatever we raised it to, that would be the bottom line. So if you raise it by 0.25, It'll go up to 715, then so forth and so far on. If we match Oklahoma City and Midwest City, which I highlighted in yellow at 9.25, it would be, that would create about 1.2 million in hotel motel tax that would be dedicated to parks. And kind of add a little bit more on, this is random thoughts that I label this as random thoughts because this is only stuff that exists in my head. I just wanted everybody to know that playgrounds should be replaced every 15 to 20 years. Without Norman Ford, we would have still have playgrounds in use that would be 30 plus years old. We still have a few playgrounds out there that are 25 plus years old. And the reason you want to replace those every 15 to 20 years is that one, average wear and tear, you don't want anything out there that long, and then two, that there are things that are no longer manufactured by that original playground that manufactured that can fit or be retrofitted or repaired. And then you go as far to start looking at the recommendations. Some of them put a lifespan on it, so if there is an accident or something that happens on it, they no longer are responsible for it after a certain time frame. So, and I will openly say this, and I think y'all have heard it too as council, the restrooms in parks are inadequate. The average cost per restroom is $400,000. I would say that sometimes it could be a little lighter than that, a little bit heavier than that, depending on where we're building it at. Andrews Park, Little Lacs, Griffin Park all need restrooms. Reeves Park and Saxon Park are in the process of getting bathrooms built right now.
And that 400,000 per restroom is just the build out of it. It is not the staffing and the maintenance to maintain it.
No, and a lot of that's built in. So depending on the time of year, it'd either be park maintenance servicing those, and then once we head into summer, we usually hire a contractor that we know that can get out there at least once a day to clean.
Generally, what is the cost to maintain one bathroom throughout the year?
Ooh, we probably have to do some calculations, but Wade's he's trying to do some calculations. He's doing park math in his head right now.
Park math.
Well, and you know, and this is ideal because I'm sure there's vandalism and things that happen that are maybe not your general maintenance costs because that changes year to year.
Yeah. What is our contract for that we hired just summer cleaners for?
General maintenance for 6 months for the 6 restrooms that we have now is about $25,000. And
Per
that's,
restroom?
yeah, that's 5 days a week.
Is that per restroom or all of them together?
That's all of them.
Oh, okay.
But that's simple restocking. That doesn't include like the graffiti removal or any type of big repairs.
And we try to go in there at this point every winter and repaint the restrooms. If we need to put a new coating on the floor, we try to do that. Those restrooms over the summer months, man, they take a beating, and there's so many. I don't even want to know what the heck happens in those restrooms. If we figure some of this out, just want to make the point that parks could have its own independent capital resource. We could either be funded through hotel motel tax or a portion of it through impact fees or a combo of both, and maybe come off or substantially come off the city's capital improvement program. Added in there that this would offer relief to the Norman Ford program in the future. Right now, we have somewhere in the neighborhood of $12 million, I think, that was dedicated to just neighborhood parks and the most recent Norman Ford. I think that the new one, we would probably ask for $15 to $20 million in neighborhood park funding. So possibly if we can figure out the correct number, we probably could take it off of Norman Ford initiative and make that Norman Ford actually, or portion go towards more traditional capital items of building or updating, making new parks, making new buildings, or updating our current buildings. Future park development, when we have a public park in a neighborhood, the biggest problem for us is once we get that land dedicated to us, how do we build it? We are now building, we're building at Links. We have South Lake that's coming up. When you start talking about those two neighborhoods, those are substantially built out, Bellatona, substantially built out neighborhoods. So we're building parks at the end of the development. Should it be more towards the middle or towards the front end? We've heard more than one time about, hey, I bought my house in this park or in this neighborhood because I heard a park was gonna be built here, but now my kids are grown because it's taken y'all 15 years to build a park. Other things that we want to talk about that possibly could be funded if, through capital and improved capitals, trails and sidewalks those are our number one requests in all our parks. I know y'all hear a lot of feedback about playgrounds and how old they are in all the parks, but trails and sidewalks are number one priority, and just us trying to figure out how to make sure that we can build a loop around every park. Park and trail lighting, that adds to the safety, and even Councilmember Hinkle lights me up about lights in their neighborhood parks. So it's a big thing. Should we have our parks are open till 9 o'clock in our neighborhoods? Should we have lights over our playgrounds because they are open when it's dark? Preserving our green spaces, nature areas, and trees. I think a lot of more funding would help out definitely with us doing that. And then I added it in gazebos. Our gazebos in some of our parks are now expiring. We're figuring out, we're now buying gazebos that aren't traditional woods, more of a fabricated type plastic, because man, they take, like everything in a park, takes a beating. So we're trying to get those replaced. And when you're talking about these fabricated gazebos, they're $20,000 to $30,000 a pop, and that's just buying the materials. So I think that's it.
Councilmember Peacock.
So is the idea that we increase both of these, or is this kind of a pick which path you think is best? A combination of the two? What's really the goal?
Best answer to that is probably, I don't know what the correct path is. I know that we need more capital money to keep up with it. We were trying to figure out, because there is, you start asking for more capital funds, so there is a cap of what we can or cannot do in a year. And we tried our best to come up with that number, and we think that our max capacity is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of about 1.5 million a year. But you start talking about, we do have bond programs that are going on. We also do want to keep a reserve in that program in case there's a high want or a high need or something, catastrophe happens and we need to replace a playground. So, I mean, we'd say somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.5 to 2 million would be the ideal range, but on a good year where we're all clicking and fully staffed, I mean, our capacity is somewhere around 1.5 million of work we could probably do.
Sure. I think I'm supportive of both paths. I think each has their benefits and their negatives. Guest tax, obviously other people's money, but we have to go to a public vote on that one, right? Impact fees, that's just a majority council vote, if I remember right. But that is developer money, resident money, so it's
Affordability conversation.
It's absolutely. I think there's, one in the hand, two in the bush, whatever the saying is. But has there been any polling done with home builders or developers to talk about if this is a pressure point? Or,
I met with Mr. Rieger this past week, and he said he's going to talk to some developers. Looks like he brought some friends with him today. So so yes, there's probably formal talks. No.
Okay, excellent. Well, like I said, I think I'm supportive of both paths. I think there's a balance, probably a compromise on the two. Would rather lean on the guest tax because I know that's, again, other people's money. A little more of a hurdle to get across. I don't want to jeopardize future sales tax or, tax votes, RTA. We've got several coming down the pipe. And so don't want that number to get too big to where people have trepidation about improving other increases to fund other things. But I definitely agree that, things cost more than they did in 1993, substantially more. And so want to be able to give you the resources that you need to go and deliver quality of life projects all across the city, like residents deserve. So.
Yeah, I'm supportive of exploring both with surveys towards both, because I do think with the question for the guest tax coming forward, it'd be good to know what people think and what they would support, and then also to the developer side with the parks. Would be interesting to find out what they think. I would say the affordability conversation does kind of it is a concern, and we hear frequently that we're very expensive to build in. But that said, it hasn't been raised in quite some time. Maybe it's not 35 cents, maybe we're starting out at a lower rate. But yeah, we could ask what would be better. And then also thinking about how you're saying, like, when you build a neighborhood park, is it at the start, the middle, or the end? Well, I would think the middle would make sense for people who bought in early and are expecting this thing. And I don't know if raising the impact fee helps that come online faster or not. But yeah, I would like to hear feedback from these groups.
I think the answer to that is rearranging how and where they go and the ability for us to spend that. Right now, it's just so limited that it goes to a specific park and you can't use anything like that. And then you start looking at our core Norman parks. There's not a whole lot of chance that they're gonna get any more developer fees because, core Norman's pretty well built out. So there's no more impact fees to go around. And then you start talking in using Oklahoma City as an example. It's not apples to apples, but they're at 50 cents per square foot for a park impact fee. They don't have any, as far as I can tell, they don't have any divide of where it can go, if it's community park or neighborhood park. And they also have a builder index calculation that goes into their ordinance that changes, that could change with the cost of building.
Okay.
Engineering news record, I think.
Yeah, I would just say that I'm in support of definitely of the guest room tax and whatever we need to do there. I'm a little more hesitant to impact the cost of building or the cost of buying or anything that involves the cost of housing in Norman, but I understand the numbers there. Do we have any bonding capacity like what we've looked at with some of the other things if we were to go put all of the properties of the Norman parks into a trust and kind of go that same avenue?
Oh, okay, so you're talking about a revenue bond as
Yeah.
opposed to a general obligation?
Correct.
Well, the capacity is just the revenue source, so you have to market the revenue bonds based on the revenue that you're generating, so.
So if that hotel bed tax number generated you an additional 1.2 million on one of those slides at 9.25%, a generic calculation is for every $1 million you have available in debt service, you could borrow about $12 million. So that'd give you an idea about how much capital you could knock down and pay off over a 20-year period. And of course, it would be interesting, Anthony, and I'll look over here at our finance folks, they may know off the top of their head. We know what pace our sales tax revenue's been growing, not much. But I would be curious to see how our hotel bed tax revenue growth has been, and with the SEC move and more hotel rooms coming on board, that may grow faster than your sales tax has been growing, so.
I just feel like we're way behind on hotels as it is, so the capacity for that I feel like is endless right now.
Yeah, and that also, it's more progressive because it'll increase with the inflation, because when your hotel room costs more, you're gonna collect more taxes off that, and the square footage of your home's not gonna change.
And just thinking ahead of with some of the bigger projects that we've seen, that our public is wanting from parks and updates to Sooner Theater and, expansion of the Life Act, the cost of those aren't gonna get any cheaper. So if it's something where we could potentially create a trust to kind of take it away from our general fund. I know I sound like a broken record with that idea, but it just seems like it could work in a lot of different ways. So I'm
Always
Yeah,
love
and
to
again,
preserve the general
I would
fund.
not suggest that you would need to create another trust.
Okay.
We have existing bonds that were issued through the Norman Municipal Authority for the YFAC most recently, but also for Westwood Golf before that. So you would not need to create another trust. You just need to create another revenue source.
Councilmember Grant.
Yeah, I was gonna say in exploring both options, the dollar amount we're trying to figure out is 1.5 million to 2 million. Basically, so it's not like we're trying to find 3 or 4 million. So we kind of have like a range to aim for between the two.
Councilman Peacock.
Yeah, to that point, I was interested in the commercial impact fee that you presented the idea on. I know we didn't get in the weeds on that, but I'm thinking of the super target that's coming online. It's probably got a 40, 50 acre site. Most of it's concrete, a lot of stormwater issues. And so if there was a way to collect an impact fee from them that went towards parks and kind of offset that impervious surface runoff. I know it's not a stormwater project necessarily, but you add green space to offset I'm just thinking, I don't want to do anything to dissuade commercial businesses from coming here, but at the same time, I think Target's gonna come to Norman whether or not we've got a park impact fee or not. They're gonna come here because they've determined this is a place they want to build a store.
So we've proven that I'm not a accountant. So I'm definitely not a lawyer, even though I've given my own legal opinions. I think we just have to look at on that facet if that's legal. There's not a whole lot of communities that do commercial impact fees, even though it was brought up. I think at least not in Oklahoma. We know that there's some in other states, but we just don't know if they work or if they are a negative impact from bringing commercial businesses or not.
Well, and if we're gonna do an impact fee on development, I don't wanna overburden home builders because we just talked about, we need affordable housing. We just need housing in general. And so anything that disincentivizes housing is a big negative, in my opinion. On the other flip side, I think there's a balance. You spread the burden around as much as possible.
And to that point, typically the math problem and then the legality of such a fee is, can you demonstrate the nexus between the fee you're charging and the challenge you're trying to address? And if we say you're gonna pave an acre of open space, how do you preserve an acre of open space? And we found that we don't pave over too many parks, so that's a good preservation effort right there.
You might compare that to the wastewater excise tax, and remember that was a voted upon tax, that's not an impact fee,
Right.
legally speaking. But just know that the commercial side of that is highly variable,
Yeah,
you know.
you never know
You
what's
have a
coming.
super target coming every 10 years maybe,
Fair.
and all of a sudden it bumps way up, but then you don't have anything for 10 years, so it's just, it's
Feast or famine.
a feast or famine.
Yeah, no, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. It just makes me think like what we would have in the coffers if we had this in place when the first super Walmart went in. Now we've got 4 Walmarts, 2 Targets. I mean, just those 6 projects alone would have generated probably a pretty substantial amount. And so I don't know that I have the answer on it. It just, I'm as interested in that path as the other 2 that we talked about today. So.
Okay, anything else? All right, thank you, Mr.
Appreciate
Wilson. Our 4th item is a discussion regarding monthly revenue and expenditure reports. Mr. Francisco?
So the revenue and expenditure reports are in your packet. Based on your discussion that you just had, I would kind of refer you to page 129 in your packet. Looking at that new development excise tax. And you see that on the residential side, we've collected $280,000 this year. On the commercial side, we've collected $57,000. And again, we budget kind of at that proportion, but we are well below our budgeted revenue from that tax as a whole, which reflects upon the development pace overall, and we're down a bit from last year. But what I would draw your attention to is just that variability. It's a very uncertain source of revenue, particularly on the commercial side. And if you were to propose a commercial impact fee or voted upon excise tax for parks or whatever it may be, you would have that variability concern. That's just what it's reflected here. Other than that, I just try to respond to any questions that you have. There is on page 128, a look at the room tax. You see that the room tax has grown a bit above our budgeted rate this year, and it has grown from last fiscal year about 5%. So yes, it is a growing revenue source. I would totally defer to Dan Shim and Visit Norman about the market for new hotels and our vacancy rate in the existing hotels and that sort of thing. So it's not just like build more hotels, more people come. I don't think it works like that. But I would defer to them, to their judgment on that sort of thing.
Councilmember Peacock.
To that point, I think in our last BACA meeting, I think we determined the number was 4,000. We were leaking 4,000 hotel rooms over the OU football season to Oklahoma City.
Just per game, per
Just
weekend.
per game. So I don't know if the capacity is for 4,000 additional hotel rooms, but I think it's probably somewhere. I mean, that's, gives us a nice range to know what we're losing to other Oklahoma City and, yeah. So,
Agreed.
that's the only comment I had.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Francisco. Item number 5 was actually brought forth to this committee by Councilmember Dixon, who couldn't be here tonight due to a previous obligation with ACOG. But it was about the Salvation Army expansion of their homeless shelter that we had heard about a year or 2 years ago. And haven't really heard much about it since, so we just wanted to see if staff could dive back into that and kind of bring us some information to.
Happy to reach out. We know the real property in that neighborhood has changed. Some older structures have been taken down. There's more vacant land in the vicinity. But I'll be happy to reach out to the major at Salvation Army and bring you an update. Figure out where they are in their process.
Councilmember Green.
Just knowing a little bit about that, it was a master plan with phases, and their biggest hurdle is funding, and they haven't been able to get it. And as for some of that vacant land that has materialized, I believe that was a tract of land that was recently put up for auction and sold, and I don't know who bought it, but I don't think it's
Thank
Salvation
you.
Army. There was a guy who wanted to develop mixed-use affordable housing, but funding was also his problem, so that's why that land went on the market.
Got it. We'll get an update on that master plan, and we might even invite the folks from the Salvation Army to come join us in that conversation and let you know where they stand and where they see it going.
Yeah, would love to have it in oversight.
Very good. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none? Okay. I'll call this meeting adjourned at 5:03.
Excellent.